coffee here. I have these buckets I brought from my mom's house. They're in the way. Oh. Alright. My back porch looks like a yard sale, and the landfill had a Saturday night special. Found a hotel room and did their thing. But that's what life is, right? An ongoing cleaning project. So we'll get some people in here, and I've got a few things I want to talk about. We'll do an update. I'm going back to work hopefully by the end of this week. I know it's what, Wednesday? Is it Wednesday? Oh, I don't even know what day it is today. I think it's Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday, July 14th. Oh, I just forgot. Just fix that. There we go. There we go. I appreciate everybody coming in here. We're talking live. Deep thoughts. And I have a lot of deep thoughts right now. Sipping on some nasty pilot coffee there, Southern Rider. That's going to bring me to my next, or one of my rants. The whole rant thing is kind of like appealing to people, so maybe we'll get into that world. I don't know. There's definitely going to be some rants though, with the things that I observed this weekend in my journeys. And coffee, what that does, that brings me out to, didn't matter if it was a hotel or a fuel stop. There was only one place in our entire journey that was awesome when it came to the traveling aspect, and that was the rest area over there by I think it was Cayuga Lake, around exit 10 in New York State off of 86. That was a beautiful rest area. I think I posted a couple of pics from there. Other than that, the bathrooms, the grocery stores, the hotels, it was all crap. It was all crap. Even the higher end stuff. Yeah, thank you, Thomas. Chautauqua, how do you say that, Thomas? I was up in your neck of the woods there, Thomas. I wish I could have stayed longer and hung out with you and Greg Wilson and a couple other people that are hanging out there. But for obvious reasons, I was distracted. So for the people that have called me and checked up on me, I really appreciate it. I haven't had any real alone time as far as being able to talk on the phone. Yesterday, I was not in the mood to talk to anybody. I don't take that personally. I just was not in the mood to talk to anybody. I was looking forward to the trip home in the rental car, and only half of it was done by myself, and all the things that I wanted to do on the way home I couldn't do because it was too late, or it just was a crap show, I guess. Almost cursed. So, but we'll get some more people in here, and then we'll do our shout outs, and then go over a few deep thoughts that I've been thinking. And I'm going to say some stuff that's kind of controversial because I witnessed something or this past couple of days that just absolutely irritates me. So, Big Rig Radio Network, missing in action. Yeah, the that rain live stream was the first live stream I could have done, and I was surprised I had enough signal to do that. Yay, Verizon! Verizon did good on that. But then last night, or no, the night before last night, Monday night, I had no signal. I was in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, at my niece's house, and there was no signal. So, and it was like 2 in the morning before we shut down. So, I'll tell you what, doing 500 miles in a car seat is way harder than doing 500 miles in a big truck. We did 700 miles Monday. We went from Freeville, New York to Mulberry, Indiana. And I took half, and my sister took half of the drive. And it was sitting in that seat for that long. You know, in the truck, you can kind of move your legs, and you're up high, and your legs are more like that versus like that. And it's just better, you know, and it's good when you're doing long distance in a car. You want to get out every 2 or 3 hours and stretch your legs, or else you're going to get clotting and, you know, leg clots, and you don't want that, blood clots. So but all in all, it was, I wouldn't say a good trip, but it was a good, safe trip, you know, and we did get to do a little bit of sightseeing while we were there. I got to see some childhood homes. I saw 2 of my childhood homes. I saw one of my childhood schools, and got to see how 40 years changes places, you know, and this area of New York, not really much has changed. A lot has changed, but a lot hasn't changed. You know, there's an old antique store that store front has literally been around for 200 something years. I went in there and I was like, so how long have you been here? And, you know, because it was a store that was literally right next door to the school. I never noticed it before. And you go in there and it's got the old crusty antique stuff, you know. And he goes, oh, about 225 years. And he pointed to pictures on the wall of the store when it first opened, you know, 200 something years ago. It was pretty interesting. So, you know, that's the thing. The town I was in was founded in the 1790s. You know, and when you, that's what I do like about the Northeast, is you have some real true American history up there. You don't have any buildings in Florida that have been around for 200 years, or, you know, buildings and, you know, or if anything has been around for that long, it's been destroyed and long since forgotten. So, but as you can hear by the noise, we're back in good old Springfield, Mo. I'm already irritated with everything. So, all right, let's do some shout outs. We got the Great Freight Sage Logic, Rick Houston, Scott SRO Logistics, Southern Rider, Donnie Luke, Thomas, He Now, Thorn Thunder Trucking, good morning. Truth About Trucking Wife. Good morning, Steve. Did you ever, Eddie Drotar, good morning, Steve. Did you ever install the Appway on your truck? For some reason, I know Jeff talked about it, but I thought you might have installed them. No, I have the right way. The Appway is a little bit different. I do believe that Jeff and Gear Grabber talked about the Appway, but I think that the problem with the Appway that I've heard, this isn't a review on a thing that I don't own. I don't want to be one of those people, but you still have to get out of the truck for the Bluetooth to connect, and so that kind of defeats the purpose of having the app on your phone. So the right way is the right way. No, the right way is what I use, and I have it in the truck and I have it in the trailer, and I had it professionally installed because, and I'm glad I did, because they had to splice a wire and do a little bit of drilling for the dash inside my truck. And I know, Eddie, you drive a different truck, but um, and the trailer I wasn't going to mess with. So if you have air suspension gauge already in your truck, it'll just attach to that. But if you don't have an air suspension in your truck, then the installation becomes a little bit deeper. So, um, so I recommend a professional installation, at least if you have the mindset I do, because I've had no issues, knock on wood, at all with them. And I think I've had to adjust the calibration twice. So, coffee is so good for the soul. It is. It is. Missing in action, says Big Rig Radio Network. What's up, Jeff? Off topic, but I'll be in Kansas City, Missouri, September 4th, reuniting with an old bandmate to see a Seven Dust show. Southern Rider, I hope Seven Dust does well. I'm not a huge fan of them. They played here with Clutch years ago, and Clutch was a good show. I could see the appeal to Clutch. I wasn't as familiar with their stuff, but I ended up getting a promo CD from them for free, and it was a good CD. And ever since then, I kind of looked at their catalog and kind of dug what I heard. And they're kind of a jam band. They're like, if Black Sabbath decided to just go off the cuff for a while, musically, lyrically and vocal wise, he's different. But Seven Dust, the only thing I remember from Seven Dust is the singer begging for someone to come up there and give him a joint. That's what I remember from Seven Dust. So I hope your experience at the Seven Dust concert is better than mine. So I've never been a big Seven Dust fan because of that. Now, with that being said, I did meet the guitar player one night. Turns out that he had a best friend that lived in this area. And a friend of mine and I, we were talking to this guy, and we thought he was full of it. But then he showed us pictures of himself, and we're like, wow, so this truly was the guitarist of Seven Dust. And at the time, he was bragging on about Phil Anselmo from Pantera. And at the time, we were just sick of all the Phil wannabes. And like literally worship this ground. And this is before Seven Dust really hit it big. They were kind of known in our circle, but not really worldwide yet, like they are now. And we were giving this dude a hard time. And the very next day, we were at the bookstore and we found a Guitar World magazine article, and there he was in plain day. But he was talking about his life up there in Maryland and all that. And I was just not impressed with the guy. Because he was thinking about quitting at that time. He was, I don't know if that particular guy is still in the band or not, but yeah, it was between that and then when they finally did play here and them just begging for weed, I was just like, whatever, so. But I bet the drive was hard. I would rather fly than be on an interstate. Well, trucking wife, let me tell you about that. I had more problems with truck drivers than I did with four-wheelers. That's a fact. Drive across the country as a four-wheeler and tell me how much respect you keep for truck drivers. Yeah, I said it. I can't wait for autonomous trucks to take over this industry, because I can't tell you how many times, and this is a pet peeve of mine, and I say this to the guys that like trucking all the time. If you're the kind of guy or driver that tailgates a car in the left lane, you're an asshole. You're unsafe, and you shouldn't have your CDL. Because if I'm in the left lane trying to pass a 63 mile per hour truck, and I can't go any faster because the vehicles in front of me are doing 65 and you're wanting to do 75, or if I'm doing 75 in a line of cars and I can't go any faster, but you're riding my tail like that, you deserve your CDL taken away. And that's why I get on to, you know, that's why I despise it. If I see it as a safety manager, I address it, because that is a pet peeve of mine. And it's dangerous. You want to know how these pileups happen? That's how they happen. And I can't tell you how many times a truck driver pissed me off driving across the country in a four-wheeler. And so they were rude, they were dangerous, and had no regard for themselves or for, you know, in the rest stops that I went into, the places where I got gas as a four-wheeler. From a four-wheeler perspective, I saw a lot of things that really makes people respect truck drivers less and less and less. Which brings me to some of my deep thoughts. We are our own worst enemy in more ways than one. And so, if you're the kind of driver that wants to push and wants to tailgate in that left lane because you can't go fast enough, don't apply for light trucking. Don't apply for any good valued company, and take yourself out of the road, because we don't need more people like you. So let me just put that out there. If you're the type of driver that does that, you should be ashamed of yourself. And you're gonna one day be on Bonehead Truckers of the Week. That just put up a video. Nothing Witty's in the house. RN. Good morning, James Best. LOL 2023. I don't know what that means. Good morning, sir. I'm over here rolling my new trailer. Nice. I drove by a trailer dealership there in Lafayette, Indiana, and they had 30 brand new dry van trailers. I was like, oh, you know. If you can get a trailer at a good price, man, that's good on you. James Best, if you can't hit the gas when there's a car in front of you. That's the thing. If I'm in the left lane, and usually that's caused by another truck doing 65 to pass the 63 in a 75 mile per hour zone. So I can either sit back and do 55 and let 30 cars, 30 vehicles go by, or I can try to get in line and hope that I can get there, which, you know, you can't push the person in front of you if they're blocked as well. Speed limiters will fix that. Well, when the public, when speed limiters happen, and truck drivers want the public's sympathy, they're not going to get it for that very reason. That's what I'm trying to tell you. All these, look, we have so many enemies as a truck driver. You have so many enemies. You have the government doing their thing. You have the public that doesn't respect you. And you know, we cried when our rates weren't high enough. We cried, you know, because we were still out there having to work, you know, while everybody else was able to sit at home during COVID world, you know. But yet, when something regulates us and we want the public sympathy, you're not going to get it if you act like that. That's the thing. And as a four-wheeler driving 1,200 miles, I saw a lot of bullshit that was caused by truck drivers. Now, don't get me wrong, four-wheelers are not innocent either. I watched a four-wheeler hit one of those median turns that you're not supposed to go in and completely almost caused a pileup on the interstate, the opposite interstate. Well, they're in off of 90. All I saw was smoke, and it was tires that were locked up from everybody that almost killed this guy. So bottom line is there's a bunch of idiots out there that have licenses, both CDL and regular license, that shouldn't be driving. So I think the time frame you're referring to was the low point in their career. It was before Southern Rider. It was before they hit it big, and the guy was like frustrated with it. So hopefully they're a much better band with a much better live presence than they were back then. Rick LP, what's up? Scott says preach it. Scribe says preach it. I got mine in Indianapolis, 2022 Hyundai for $35K. Wow, that's a good price. That is a good price. And that's pretty sad that I can sit there and say a $35,000 dry van is a good price. What kind of world are we living in when that sentence is said? I also think that the trucking industry as a whole is at an all-time low now when it comes to hiring requirements. Therefore, more and more idiots are being put on the road. Southern Rider, the truth to that is that when the rates are this good, when the rates are as good as they are, people want meat in the seats. And then did they find like some areas where CDLs were practically being given to because someone had some money? I mean, I almost got hit at a Costco there in Illinois from a guy that there's no way he passed the CDL test. There's no way. He couldn't speak English, and he literally didn't know the first thing about backing at all. It was like watching one of these RVers back their RV for the first time ever. It was like watching that. It was crazy. He almost hit me. Not because he was backing, but he was like trying to cut to position his backing, and he was like, if I didn't hit the horn, he would have wiped my hood out. I agree, especially with the not to apply for the good company part. My truck says what your truck don't make look like crap. All licenses are way too easy to get nowadays. Absolutely, preach on, brother. Trucker shortage benefits us. Thoughts? No, it doesn't benefit us, and here's why, Rick. Because what happens is it's two answers to that. On one side, it does benefit us because it allows us to, even as a company driver, it's a driver's market right now. In other words, you can pick and choose the companies because they're desperate for you. On the owner-operator side, you should be raking in the cash right now. I was finally starting to look at low boards and looking at different DAT averages, and I missed out on the 4th of July revenue. I wish I could have taken advantage of that. But at the same time, here's the double-edged sword. It allows excuses. It gives the government options. Let's make Mexican and Canadian drivers be able to drive interstate. Let them drive in the states versus just through the states. It allows that option to open because we need more drivers. If we could tap into the Canadian and Mexican drivers, anything that will lower rates, autonomous trucks, it gives them excuses to go full on to that. And they're going to give special, just like the VAC, if you guys know what I'm talking about, just like they gave them special permissions to bypass all the government regulations, they're going to do the same thing with autonomous trucks. So it gives them excuses to do all these different things. The higher rates that we ask for, the more the pinch is felt with the country, and then what happens when the country thinks it's in crisis? The government steps in and screws it all up. So that's where that's going to be a problem. So enjoy this now. Enjoy this now. Make hay while the sun shines, because it's going to get real. There is no truck shortage. Retention is the problem. Yes, retention is the problem. And I've always said that. But by calling it a driver shortage, it allows special circumstances to happen. It allows the government preferential treatment of the ATA companies and the big carriers. Now, something was said in Jeff's live feed last night. I forget who said it. Um, oh, what was it? That the mega carriers were ruining the trucking industry, and I disagree, and I agree. It's partially true, but not 100% true, because the mega carriers only account for 5 to 7% of the entire trucking industry. Now, it may not seem like it, but because it's easy to recognize the Snyder trailer, it's easy to recognize the Swift trailer, and they seem to be everywhere. But for the most part, you have independent, smaller trucking companies that make the majority of our industry. However, whether you look at the ATA or if you look at trucking as a whole, there's a small, tiny group of people that literally has a say over the whole industry, and that's the problem. That's the big problem. And so, it's corporate greed that makes it to where truck driving isn't pleasant. You know what I mean? It's a lifestyle, so there's that challenge. But then, I think Jay Cannell at one point had talked about it in one of his videos, how trucking was a poverty job. In other words, you're almost trapped in it, and there's a lot of industry. Like, I've got a friend of mine that works for Walmart. He's worked for Walmart for, I don't know, going on almost 20 years. He makes more money than he would if he worked somewhere else doing the same thing that he's doing at Walmart. But not so much that he's rich, not so much that he's comfortable, or could be more comfortable. And so he's kind of trapped. Now, I don't know about you, but I consider it enslavement. And there's a lot of trucking companies that do the same thing. They give you just enough money that you feel pretty good about things, but you still can't get anything done. If you want to invest, if you want to start a business, if you want to, buy a truck on your own, or they have such killer benefits that you'd be a fool to leave. So you never go to the next step of wanting to start your own business, and then there are people that have no desire to have a trucking business because of all the headaches and everything occurred. And after what I've witnessed the last couple of days, I wouldn't want to be, if I had my own authority, I wouldn't want to hire other drivers until I rode with them for, 2 days to see how they drove. I mean, because of the things that I'm seeing, with my journey, it was, I know there's a lot of good drivers out there, but they're already working for good companies. So how would I be able to appeal to somebody if I had my own authority? Hey, come work for me, and I hope that you don't drive like an asshole. So, and you think that people who pull camper trailers need to get a CDL also? I partially agree with that. You guys have you guys, and maybe Jeff can kind of attest to this. You guys have seen the big RVs, like the $160,000 full RV jobs, not the trailers, but it looks like a bus, right? You ever notice the mirrors on those things? They're really small. And when I drove a school bus, which is about the same size as these RV things, if not a little bit smaller, there were mirrors all over. Of course, a lot of that's safety for the kids, but there were mirrors. You could see there was no blind spots in that bus, hardly. if you set your mirrors right, there were no blind spots, you know, other than being below the sight line. These RVs, these $160,000, $180,000 RVs, got these little mirrors like this with cheap ass, you know, steer tires. And doesn't take much for those. Motor coach, yeah. Just day before yesterday, I had a fellow company driver do the pass me, cut me off, and then get up right off the exit. It, I witnessed that so many times. It was crazy. I mean, I witnessed that in the truck. You know, and I think that part of the issue is in a big truck, I can kind of sit inside. I can sit there and cruise 60, and there's nothing I can do about it, so I just sit there. I'm not trying to be the aggressive, I gotta go, 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 because I can't tell you how many times I've seen these trucks that push and bully the car in the left lane or bully the other truck in the left lane, and they're go, 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 and then I see them pass me like 3 or 4 times. Like, they're not gaining any ground. That's the big misconception. If you're going to do 75 or 60, you really don't gain that much ground, especially in busier areas. Now, if you're out in the open desert, yeah, you're going to gain some time, you know, if you're going to do 75 versus 60. But with all the traffic jams, how many times have you guys raced somebody down 70 only to be stopped in the same traffic jam in Indianapolis? What good did all that stress on your truck, on your mind, on everybody else around you, and the danger that you put yourself and others in? What good did that do? You're in the traffic jam longer than me. Common sense. The turtle and the hare. The turtle and the hare. And I'm definitely the turtle. Now, in the car, I was a little bit more, I won't say aggressive, but I did go the speed limit in all the states. I didn't sit there and cruise at 63. My rental car was a Volkswagen Passat. Is that how you say it? And that car was neat. I liked it. It was I felt like a caveman in it because, you know, push button start. And it had blind spot indicators. Like, in other words, it had this massive blind spot that you almost missed, you know, when you turn your head back. But it had these indicators on the mirror when someone was in that exact blind spot. And I thought that was impressive. But to a new generation driver, that's just going to force people to not look at all the way around, you know, when they need to switch lanes. You love driving through, James? Trucking money is the only part of trucking that's hard to pass up. A lot more cons than pros. It should at least need an air brake endorsement. I think there are some coaches that have air brakes, and I think you do have to have something for those. But for the regular gas pushers, there's no air brakes on those. I mean, I drove a box truck that's rated for 12,600 pounds that didn't have air brakes. Right lane Dutch says right lane drivers wanted, left lane drivers no need to apply, right? Yes, agree. They give you just enough to keep you trapped. Some things got to change. I had my moment cycling. I go through Chicago every single day. You definitely need to be a more defensive driver through it, but most everybody's the same. You know, that's part of the job. You got to have some kind of passion for the job, and I think that's what helps create retention. You know, but it's easy to enslave somebody by paying them well or giving them killer benefits. Well, there's something I was going to bring up, but that might be a different video for a different day because it's kind of off topic. But I had a square-looking lad Lada as my first car, but I paid for it cash. Didn't need any loan. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to go into a 2021 vehicle when all my personal vehicles are 20 years old. I definitely felt intimidated a little bit, but my truck has got. Now, this thing had adaptive cruise control, so that was kind of neat. But it was the same headaches that I get in my truck, which for some reason I'm getting that adaptive cruise control fault on my truck now ever since I got it worked on. So, so I don't know if I even have cruise control when I get back in the truck. People can't drive the dang thing, so I think they should at least get some training before they go to try to drive these campers. Truck and wife, what's going to happen is someone's going to have a massive accident. There's going to be a lawsuit. There'll be accidents, but it won't be until a lawsuit occurs, and they will hold the RV company liable for someone's inability to drive them. Once that happens, then they will start. Then maybe they will start requiring something before you can take one off the lot. But right now, it's all about selling as many as they can, as fast as they can. You guys have seen these RV dealerships out in the middle of nowhere. Like, there's not even a big city near them, and they're like 20, 30, 50, 100 RVs out here in the middle of nowhere. And you're like, where are these all going? What kind of overhead is this? And the markup on RVs is absolutely incredible. I talked to a friend of mine that used to sell them. You guys bitch about the brokers wanting 60-70%. You should see the markup on RVs and trailers. It's crazy. If I had, what I would want to do is you could take a school bus, refurbish the inside, rebuild the engine, and still be cheaper than one of those motor coaches. And it's a lot safer, a lot more durable, and it's meant for some heavy duty, you know, driving, and it's meant for impact. School buses are meant for impact. They are built to, well, let me rephrase that. They're built to take an impact. So they're a lot better built. I mean, how many times have you guys seen these RV trailers literally obliterated into nothing when there's an accident? And you're putting a $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 camper trailer on a $2,000 axle on $200 tires. That doesn't make sense to me. So, and then these motor coaches are just overpriced, conversion vans, in my opinion. So, but I have a very simplistic way of looking at things, and that's kind of some of the other deep thoughts I want to get to is that I've really started to notice how much we complicate our own lives. Simple actions aren't simple anymore. I don't know, what's a good example? Have you ever tried to call a credit card company? Was it simple? Have you ever tried to call your cable company or your satellite dish company? Was that simple? Have you ever tried to, I don't know, deal with your cell phone carrier? Was that simple? But then people complicate their own lives. For example, there was an incident at home where one of my sisters accidentally broke a French press, the glass insert, and she immediately got on Amazon, had one ordered, just like that. The other sister, because this was for a mutual friend that was helping us out, so we didn't have to stay in a hotel. She was like, we got to get something now. And I understood that. So what I did is I got online, found the closest coffee store that was open in a small town on a Sunday in upstate New York. They had one in stock. Boom, let's go get it. Meanwhile, the two sisters are arguing about this place and that place and buy this online, but they don't have it in the store. And they were looking at Walmart, they were looking at Bed Bath Beyond, they were looking at all these different places and checking to see online, like making this a complicated process. Meanwhile, I had it solved. My sister originally had it solved with Amazon, but that wasn't good enough. So we'll buy one now, right? The first place we went, they had one. They weren't happy with it, so we went to Bed Bath & Beyond, got it. Easy breezy. But the process it took to get there was convoluted, a bunch of stress, a bunch of discussions, and inevitably it turned into a passive-aggressive pissing contest, which is a world that I'm very familiar with because that's what YouTube is. YouTube is a passive-aggressive pissing contest between YouTubers. Because everybody has to be right. I've spent a whole weekend with everybody has to be right. And just like growing up, I grew up with 3 older sisters. I was always in the background, just doing my thing while everybody else argued. It was no different. It's kind of how I do my YouTube. Everybody's arguing, and I just sit in the background and do my own thing. Because at the end of the day, none of this matters. Okay? None of this matters. There are bigger problems in this world than what we're arguing about. There are bigger problems, there are bigger issues in your lives that require attention versus you just got to be right. And that's the reason why I didn't talk to anybody yesterday. Because I was reflecting on this. I needed some self-reflection because I've just dealt with the stressful family situation. Money's getting kind of tight now because I got to go back to work, but I'm still not done with everything yet. And everybody, whether I wanted to go get food somewhere, whether I wanted to get a hotel room, whether I wanted to do something right, or whether I wanted to learn how to do something right, everybody is our own worst enemy. Everybody is your own worst enemy. And then your shit bleeds on to me. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And that's where ego comes in. My sister's egos were battling it out. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because I'm still going to do what I'm going to do. You're still going to do what you're going to do. And they are still going to do what they do. We live in a world where we think that a meme or a YouTube video is going to change people's minds. Like that. And it doesn't happen that way. I can sit here and preach to you till you're blue in the face about how toxic sugar is, But until you want to research that yourself and make that decision, there's nothing I can do for you. And so it does me no good to be upset that you don't take my message. It doesn't do me any good if my ego is hurt because you did not like what I had to say. It does me no good other than create torment and discontent in my world. So if you want to be content, you have to be confident. You want to be confident, kill your ego. That's it. Kill the ego. And if you find yourself full of anxiety, full of stress, and you can't eat right and you can't sleep right, and you find yourself not being able to enjoy the fruits of your labor, then you're doing something wrong. You know, one sister has this beautiful home, beautiful yard. I would live there if I had to. I would love it. It was so quiet out there to not hear the traffic. It was awesome. But she never had time to enjoy it. She never had time to sit back, you know. What good's all this money in the bank if you can't enjoy it? What good is being a responsible adult if you can't have time yourself to reflect on what needs to be reflected on? And when something as simple as replacing a French press becomes a stressful situation, you've complicated your life to the point that you're not happy, you're miserable. So what happens? The vicious cycle. You don't eat right because you're stressed. Your body gets broken down because you're always on the move. You can't think of the deep things, you know, so you're constantly worried about the small things, which creates more stress. And what does COVID like? COVID like stress. The CDC says the top 3 things that creates a higher mortality rate with COVID is number 2 was stress, and number 1 was diabetes and other medical conditions. Number 2 was stress and anxiety, and number 3 was obesity. Look around you. Go into Walmart. What do you see? What do you see? Those first 3 things with everybody. Because I know some skinny people that have a lot of health and anxiety issues. The CDC has said it. So we've complicated our lives to the point that we're stressed, so we don't eat right, we don't sleep right, and we're worried about things at the end of the day will just end up at the dumpster while you move into a room the size of your back porch. At the end of the day, you're going to be on your deathbed wondering why you were stressing over all the little things that really didn't matter, such as getting behind a car that can't go anywhere and doing 80 miles an hour and flipping them off because you can't get what you want. And so all this passive aggressive pissing contest, both online, on Facebook, on YouTube, on in real life, I'm over it. And it makes me want to just shut down and shut out the world completely. The scary part is the entire country is becoming this, and that makes it easy to divide and conquer, because it's already happening. So, you quit going into Walmart? I don't blame you. OTJB is right on YouTube until he's wrong, and then he repeats the process. The dealership for campers is a shortage. They have a sign that said campers are coming to lay on parts. I'm not sure what that's about. Maybe not enough workers to make parts. Let me tell you about that. How do you create a demand for something You call it a shortage. What does calling something shortage allow you to do? It allows you to price it higher. Oh, we've got to price these 53-foot dry van trailers because there's a shortage of them. To mask, I'm going to say this once. To mask the inflation that is coming in our economy, they are creating or dramatizing shortages that some are there, but most aren't. They're being created. If there's a true physical shortage, it's being created. I wholeheartedly believe that. Because many parts of the world have been able to back at work, and so there's a demand, so it creates a higher demand. Fuel is a big, is the blatant, like it's blatant. Oh man, there's a gas shortage now. The government steps in and says, if you're price gouging, that's a federal offense, whatever, blah. But if you do it gradually, I almost said it. If you do it gradually, it's not as noticeable. Price gouging is not as noticeable. Anybody price lumber lately? Tell me that's not. There's no shortage of trees. There's no shortage of, there might be a shortage of people processing those trees in the wood. But maybe in the beginning there was a shortage. Maybe in the beginning there were some production issues. But those production issues have since been remedied. So why is the price still high? So to sit there and say that I get it. There are people that have had to wait on parts. I had to wait on parts because they weren't available. But what does that do? That creates a stress with my business. I wasn't able to run an extra week because of that. There are people that have been down for 3 or 4 months because of shortage of parts. Well, where are these parts coming from? Why hasn't that problem been solved? There's definite signs of market manipulation. Absolutely, RN. Absolutely. Bearded Dragons. Moonfleet, what's up? Do I know anybody who's died of that? Yes. Not personally, but, friends of friends kind of video. I talked to a person who's actually a YouTuber who lost 2 close family members. So I don't think it's BS. I mean, it's definitely a real thing. But I definitely believe that it's being used for manipulation for control. So there's that. Didn't someone a while back have shirts or something for sale that said "Kill Your Ego"? It's bugging me that I can't remember that, but I know I've seen it. Yeah, I can't remember who it is. Nothing with either. Stress is no benefit, actually. Yep, you're right. YouTube is entertainment at best. There's a lot of how-to videos on YouTube that are great. But if I want to research how to open a record store, I would look at some stuff on YouTube. I would look up some blogs, but I would actually talk to actual record store owners, okay? And I would get the insights from them, not from somebody on YouTube, okay? And when it comes to trucking business stuff, there's so many different factors. Like the other day, Jeff had a discussion about the differences in percentages and how one company might be better based off of the percentage. But Jeff finally said something towards the end of the video that what it boils down to is if you have your own authority, you have 100%. You can sit there, you gross 100%. If you do a load for $1,000, you gross that $1,000, okay? And so what comes out of the net to make it net? Well, all the expenses associated with having your own authority. Well, if you're signed on with someone, you have a set of expenses. Now, if the carrier decides to nickel and dime you with the ELD fees, the cargo liability insurance, maybe a DAT board, or other incidentals, like you Schneider guys know that the list of things that were itemized and taken out of your cut, those are still expenses. So, like here, we're at 80% at Like Trucking, okay? While Jeff doesn't charge for the ELD, he doesn't charge for cargo liability, I still have to charge myself for all the other stuff that's required, whether you own a truck at Prime or whether you own a truck on your own authority. If you own a truck at Prime, you have a list of expenses. If you own a truck at Like Trucking, you have a list of expenses. If you have your own authority, you have a list of expenses. And at the end of the day, it's all about the net. That's it. It's simple. You can sit there and measure, well, if you get 88% here, it's actually truly 72% here, but after all the expenses. The main thing that you have to look at is if you do a load for $1,000, how much of that $1,000 is taken out by your expenses, regardless if you have your own authority, you're signed on with somebody like Trucking, or you're signed on with someone that nickel and dimes you, or you're signed on with a company like Schneider. And what a lot of people don't look at is that math. So at Landstar, when I was at Landstar, I didn't realize that if I did a load for $1,000, I was only getting $650 of that. And then my expenses were acquired from there. Now, when I go from, same thing with Schneider, but when I went from Schneider to Like Trucking, now I wasn't being itemized on those deductions. However, I still had my own deductions that were added. Now I had to pay my own insurance instead of Schneider charging me for insurance. Now I had, and so my list just shifted. It just changed. I was still paying for a DAT board. I'm still paying for, all these different things. They're just itemized differently. So at the end of the day, at Landstar, what are my deductions for taxes? The ELD, the insurance, the com data card fees, all those things. Whereas Like Trucking, we don't have all those, so I don't itemize as much, but I still have itemized deductions regardless, nonetheless. And so at Landstar, I didn't realize that after taking the load, after $650, because you're getting 65%, you have all of your deductions past that. Just like at 80% at Like Trucking, I still have my deductions past that are mine, that I have control. So out of that $1,000, I'm I lose 20% right off the bat, and then at the end of the load, and Trucking Pro will itemize this exact money. At the end of the fuel, depending on how many miles the load was, I might net $600 or $700. But if I do that same load at Landstar, I might net $400. And that throws your brain because you're seeing the gross number at Landstar. Schneider, you never see the top gross number. You're seeing their 65% number, so that's the number you base off of. And it trains you to look at that number only. When I book for a load for $1,000, I see it as $800 because I have to, because that's what I'm getting. So the term to the truck is important. Again, doesn't matter if you have your own authority, doesn't matter if you're at an 88% company that has all the deductions or you're at an 80% company with no deductions. You have to look at what's to the truck and then base all your expenses off of that. That's how it works. It's simple. There's no formula. You can sit there and say, well, you're technically getting, this much percent, but you're really getting this percentage. No. What is to the truck? That's the number you pay attention to. And what is your net after what's to the truck? After fuel, after insurances, after load boards, after card fees. That's the number you look at. It's not that difficult. And what company allows you to tackle the challenges that come to you being a truck driver, and how many of them, that's where the true bread and butter lies, is how does a company treat you? How easy is it to communicate with that company when stuff goes wrong? Because stuff will go wrong. That's it. There's no magic formula. It's how you're treated, how much you net, and how do you handle problems. That's it. That's what makes a good trucking company. That right there. If you try to confuse the situation with all these percentages and what you're actually taking home, the bottom line is it's net. What is the net to the truck after what's to the truck? And so if you have your own authority and your insurance costs $30,000 a year, your net's going to be a lot less than someone who, like me, who is at an 80% company, and so I would net more than you based off of your expenses. That's it. That's it. That's as simple. And that's the thing. You complicate your life, you make it more difficult. And that's the beauty of like trucking, is that Jeff has simplified the system. It's easy math. 80% minus fuel, and then looking at your deductions after that, that's not his problem. That's your problem. And if you're still better off doing whatever, then you're better off. That's it. That's it. That's it. Period. End of story. So we can go on and on about different percentages. Well, my company pays 90. Well, my company pays 80. Well, my company does this. Well, what is net to the truck at the end of the day? And so what's that mean? Your costs. Well, gee, if it costs me a whole lot of money to be at a certain carrier because of all their deductions, and I can do better on my own by having control of my deductions, then what are you going to do? And so Jeff's company creates an environment to where you're not thinking about the cargo liability. You're not thinking about the ELD. You're not thinking about card fee. Well, we do have a card fee, but that's absorbed in the fuel discount. And so, there's all these factors that come into play. But the bottom line is, what is your cost to do? What's the cost of a prime driver? Cost related to a travel loco driver? Cost related to a light trucking contractor? Cost related to a Landstar driver? Or cost related to a Snyder driver, or cost related to your own authority? All those numbers are going to be different. There's no magic formula. You just got to estimate your costs. You want to get your own authority, find out what your insurance is going to cost. If you want to go from a company like Landstar to like trucking, what's the cost? Because while you don't have all these deductions like you do at Landstar over here, you're still going to have to worry about your own insurance. You're still going to have to worry about not your ELD, but your plan to cover the ELD, for the tablet or whatever. And then you're still going to have to worry about, load boards and stuff like that. So you have to incorporate all that. Now, more than likely, you're going to do better at an 80% company versus a 65% company, especially one that doesn't have deductions. But yet we can't get through to some of these Landstar drivers that say they want to come over, but then they don't, because they're afraid of change. And that's the other aspect. Are you afraid of change? I can be afraid of change at times, but I have no problem adapting and overcoming things when they come along. So, because I've had to rise up to challenges. Do I like challenges? Sometimes I do. I've grown to like challenges because it makes me a stronger, better person. But for the most part, math does not lie. Unless you do it wrong. Math does not lie. This is what happens when you drive in a car by yourself for a long time. You think about stuff. Get off social media, Fox and CNN, and you'll be better off. Steve Watkins, I disagree with that. I mean, I agree with that, but the problem is that when stuff's really hitting the fan, you're completely oblivious. I witnessed that over the weekend. There were plenty of people that had their head in the sand and didn't realize some of the things that were going on. Like my sister was completely unaware of what was going on in Seattle. completely unaware of the siege that was happening in Portland. She was completely unaware of the level of violence that was in Minneapolis. Completely unaware because the news and social media stresses her out, so she ignores it. Now, it didn't make her any happier because when these realities were faced to her, then her stress and anxiety came back. And so, my secret, I think the life secret, is to try to deal with the stress, have the ability to deal with stress, have the ability to conquer anxiety, and have the ability to think clearly in stressful situations. That's the true key to happiness. Because crap's going to happen whether you ignore it or not. The world is going to do what it's going to do. And if you're in the know without it letting affect your soul and your happiness, if you can be informed without letting it bog you down, that's the key right there. But how do you stay informed when you can't trust the information? Well, I'm way behind on the comments. I apologize. That's what I fight. Snorelord, trying not to shut everybody out and everything out. Yep. Um. Oh, Bill says, "Good morning. Are we as a country rotting from the inside?" Yes, Bill. Absolutely. The fall of Rome is upon us. Don't tell the children that they think we're cutting down rainforests for grocery bags. Right. The whole green thing, that's another topic for another day. Supply and demand. When prices are low, no one says a word. When prices go up, market manipulation is the answer. Is to answer. I call it slow down and smell the roses. We live so fast these days. Just slow down and reflect on what positive things we can all be. Humble ourselves for our own sanity. It really amazes me that I was surrounded by all this beauty, yet nobody was happy. That's that is. They actually have around. Okay, so the area I was at was around Cornell University. They have netting around every major bridge and every cliff because they have problems of kids killing themselves that aren't, doing well in this Ivy League school. Think about that. Every single place that I went to, looking at the big waterfalls and these deep, big bridges, all have netting to keep people from killing themselves. But yet we don't address the root of why they're killing themselves. And the quickest way to defeat anxiety is to look at every single thing in a positive, gratitude. Gratitude is the path to happiness. Trust me on that. The wind's picked up. So over here. And it is only worth what a person is willing to pay for it. So the market means market means nothing, right? Problem is the logistics chain company closed for a while. Yeah, a lot of them did, but they're all full back. I mean, look at ammo. Ammo's starting to be resupplied now, but yet have prices gone down a little bit, but not much. Did I go to try? Yeah, I went to trucking school. No, my dad wasn't alive when I took my CDL test. Kane. Uh, Desert Okie Pam, what's up? I know who that is. How are you doing, Pamela? Um, Thomas Wilson's in the house. What did Scott say that you agree with? Yeah, the world's going the same route. I agree with Scott. Let's see. Who knows what's going on in South America? It's hard to say. Sage is looking at me. Let's see. CNN is grabbing for straws. The news is too biased. Yep. Problem: people are egotistical, and people don't know how to compare how not to compare junks, then try to tell others how they're doing it wrong. Yes, absolutely. It's all about simple processing, mostly attitude on how you handle your own bottom line. Sorry, listening along while working in the bunker. In my opinion, the world has gone crazy. Rules, laws, and social norms are changing so quickly, not too many people can keep up. And I think that's intentional. RN, it is intentional. Brand new truck with 4,000 miles. All four drives and both axles were out of alignment. 2022 International. That sucks, Almond. Trucking industry is designed the same. It's just hard. We want to stay with it. Tried Japan. Their kids commit suicide for getting bad grades or in the wrong school. If I had done that, I would have been dead 10 times. Yeah. If you had to make a decision, either cut your hair bald or shave your beard off completely, what would you choose? Probably shave the beard. Hair is easy to maintain. The beard can get in the way. I have to be really careful when I'm when I'm doing a pre-trip with the truck engine, not to get this caught in the belt. So, the hair I can just tie back and it's forgotten about. So. No. They appreciate some metal, but they're not like. It's interesting. My youngest wears some of the metal shirts that my wife gave, and but they don't even know what it sounds like. I mean they do, but yeah, she wears these like Vader shirts. Doesn't really like have any Vader albums, but my son is very eclectic. He likes some Broadway tunes, but he also likes Hatebreed. So, and then it's funny when I'm playing my songs on Spotify. He'll it's curious to see his Spotify list. So. Gotta run. Call me later when your blood pressure comes down. LOL. What would your wife think of that choice, losing the beard over the hair? I don't know. I've never asked her that question. I think she'd probably have me keep the beard versus the hair. So, because it hides my ugly face. This hides a lot, guys. It hides the logos on shirts, and it hides your ugliness on the face. So I think she would want the beard to be kept. What's my favorite instrument? To listen to or to play? I like playing the drums. I wish I was a better drummer. But I don't practice. And probably the drums. Drums. You watch playthroughs of death metal drummers and you'll see some amazing, and jazz drummers too, you'll see some amazing things. Morning, Jose. We learned that with OTJ. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. We have to accept a lot of responsibility ourselves. We keep re-electing the same old politicians, expecting a different result. Definition of insanity. The true mistake there is thinking that politicians going to solve all of the problems. That's what they want you to believe. Politicians solve nothing. Nothing. Because once you find the ones that do, someone will come along and ruin it. Because they're a politician and they must ruin the other politician. Think about political campaigns. What are they? It's a battle of egos. It's a battle of I can do better for you, even though there's no evidence. You take two presidential candidates that neither one of them like on a year that you're getting two new candidates versus one re-electing. What is it? It's a battle of egos to prove to you all the good things that they've done and how bad the other person is. It's kind of like YouTube. It's a big battle. I'm better for you than because I said so. Or that person's no good for you because they said so. And at the end of the day, it's all a scam. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you go right. It doesn't matter if you go left. It's all a ruse. It's all a scam. And now we have idol worship of politicians, which is dangerous, because when you have idol worship, how many of you listen to an artist or appreciate a movie actor despite all the bad things that they've done because you just like that person so much? Because when you idol worship someone, they could do no wrong, and when they could do no wrong, they could do plenty wrong. That's the thing. So the idol worship that this person can do no wrong, that this person is a savior. There's no saviors on this earth. There's no saviors here. Are there people with good intentions? Absolutely. But most politicians have good intentions that are either ruined by the ones that don't, or they have to subject themselves to the system, or the system eats them up, spits them up, or chews them up, spits them out. That's it. At the end of the day, you can only control what you can control, and that's here, inside your head. You control what you eat, and you control what's in your head. That's all you got control of. That's it. Politicians, you can't control what they do. Government, you can't control what it does. Viruses, you can't control what they do. At the end of the day, how do you handle everybody else's bullshit? Up here. So mental strength, physical strength, emotional strength, and spiritual strength is the key to not being addicted to food, not being addicted to drugs, not being addicted to anything. Alcohol, drugs, your cell phone, looking at it all the time. Because at the end of the day, you need self-reflection. At the end of the day, you need gratitude. At the end of the day, you need to be a deep thinker and control the thoughts that come along with that. When I sit there and think about all the differences that's happening in our country, and a perfect example is I visited a town that I haven't been in 40 years. 40 years. And while there was a lot of physical things that hadn't changed, there was a lot of physical changes that did happen. And but the mentality was different. Maybe I was a kid and I was oblivious to a lot of it, but the liberal agenda is definitely strong in New York. And there's a lot of liberal agenda that's about controlling your thoughts, controlling what you need to be stressed about, controlling what you should be worried about. Not control of your own life, not control over what you eat, not control over what you think. And so how do you defeat that? You got to be in the right mindset. Well, how do you become in the right mindset? You got to eat right, you got to sleep right, and you got to hang out with the right people that have their shit together. That's it. That's it. So, with that being said, we're going to end this live feed. I got to take the rental car back so I can save myself $200. You guys, thanks for watching. And if you don't like my message, then you need to figure out why. And I have no problem if you don't like my message, because maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But look deep within inside yourself and tell me that I'm wrong on all accounts. If you could say that, then you obviously know something I don't. So, with that being said, thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up for the next 5 seconds while I keep this video live. I want to thank everybody that reached out to me that said they had my back. Please forgive me if I don't call back right away. I got to get refocused on the business. I have literally not thought about my truck. Looked at a low board, even talked about rates with anybody except for Big Rig CO. I did have some talks about rates with him because he just started his own authority and all that. But beyond that, trucking has been out of my head for a while, and math is simple. It's how you deal with the math up here, and so just keep hitting the thumbs up, guys. Let's get this video out because YouTube doesn't like my analytics, so we got to create better analytics. And I feel that I don't do this to feed my ego. I do this to help you and to get a little bit off my chest because I believe in being truthful on YouTube, and I believe on being transparent. And you don't have to be perfect, right? You don't have to be perfect. I am definitely nowhere near perfection, but I'm striving to be a better person. And if you watch any of my videos from 3 years ago or 4 years ago, those live streams, I definitely feel that I've come a long way. I will toot my own horn on that. So, with that being said, thanks for watching. I appreciate you. And that's it. Peace.